In today's video, we're gonna do a review about OX Special Fund. We're gonna see the performance of this fund since the date of inception, that is February 2024, and also the composition of assets under management, that is where they have invested their money or their funds. And lastly, we will compare it with other special fund like Kuza Momentum Special Fund. So without further ado, let's get started. So OX Special Fund is just like any other special fund. They incorporate multi-asset strategy when it comes to investment. That is, they invest in a wide variety of financial instruments such as equities, government bonds, both locally and also internationally. Like for Kenya, they invest in NSE stock and also the US market or also the European market. And that is basically what special fund deals with. So OX Special Fund is run by Faida Investment Bank, and it was brought into Inception in February 2024. And its quarterly performance, that is quarter one of 2025, they had a 4.66, and when annualized, the yearly return will be 18.64. For you to get started with this OX Special Fund, you need a minimum investment of 500,000 Kenya shillings and a minimum top-up of 50,000 Kenya shillings, meaning that once you make the initial payment of 500,000, then the next payments you will be making should not be less than 50,000 Kenya shillings. And in terms of the period in which you need to invest, the login period is 6 months, so you cannot withdraw your money up to the 6-month period. So it's advisable to have a long-term investment plan if you are going into special fund. And in terms of management fee, OX Special Fund has a higher management fee compared to other special funds like Kuza, Mansa X. Most of the special funds in Kenya have management fee of 5% per annum, but OX Special Fund has 6% per annum. And their benchmark is average 30%, 364-day treasury bill plus 30% NSE all shares plus 40% S&P 500. So S&P 500 are the top performing companies in the US. And the assets under management currently for OX Special Fund is 2.71 billion Kenya shillings. The fund manager is Ian Kahangara, and he has been working in the investment industry for 17 years. The trustee is Comparative Bank of Kenya. That is the institution that oversees the operation of this special fund, and the custodian is I&M Bank. A custodian is one who takes care of your capital before they invest in the special fund. And let's see how much you would have made if you had invested 1 million shillings in OX Special Fund since the day of inception. So if you had invested 1 million shillings in February 2024, that is the day when OX Special Fund was formed, then by the end of March 2025, that is around 1 year later, you would have gained an extra 369,000 Kenya shillings. So you can see there is a good investment, almost 40% gain from your investment. Let's now see how this fund has been operating quarterly. So in the first quarter of 2024, they had 15.4%. Second quarter was 6.78. Third quarter of 2024 was 3.15. And fourth quarter of 2024 was 4.05%. And finally, quarter one of 2025, it was 4.66%. Most of the special fund have quarterly return averaging between 4 point something. So comparing with what we are seeing here, I think it's fairly good. And last year, 2024, they had an absolute return of 29.38%. So if you minus the management fee, the net return comes to around 23.38. And let's now see the asset allocation. That is where they invested their money in. Most of the money was invested in government securities. That is 62% of the fund invested in government securities, followed by currencies, indices, metals and commodities at 13%, cash and cash equivalent at 9%, derivatives at 5%, and sovereign bonds 6%, NSE, that is Nairobi Stock Exchange securities at 4%, and lastly international equities at 1%, which all add up at 100%. Let's now compare it with OX Special Fund. OX Special Fund was founded in December 2022, and the current quarterly return for this year, June 2025, is 4.71, which is not far from what this other special fund, that is Ox Special Fund, is currently making. For the first quarter, they had 4.66. So you can see most of these special fund have a quarter return of 4 point something. But one thing about Kuza Momentum is that they had an extremely high net return last year, and this was one of the top performing special fund in 2024. But this is like an outlier. I don't think it's possible to make this like year in, year out. So it's something that happens once in a while. And in terms of assets under management, Kuza Momentum Special Fund have 142.87 million Kenya shillings under management. But Ox Special Fund has 2.71 billion, which makes it larger than the Kuza Momentum Special Fund. And in terms of risk, it is rated as moderate risk. As you know, investing in special fund is recommended for people who have above average risk appetite. And also the minimum investment in Kuza Momentum is lower compared to Ox Special Fund. For Kuza Momentum, it's 100,000 Kenya shillings. So if you cannot afford to get started with 500,000 Kenya shillings, as in Ox Special Fund, then you can go with Kuza Momentum, which is 100,000 Kenya shillings. And they also share the same minimum top up, that is 50,000 Kenya shillings. In terms of asset allocation, you can see most of the fund in the Kuza Momentum Special Fund invested in collective investment scheme. That is 25% of the money in the fund was invested in collective investment schemes. Collective investment schemes are like mutual funds, index fund, all those. And then 25% was on quoted securities. Then we have government securities at 24%. As you see, mostly they invest in government securities because they are more secure. So if you want to get started with a special fund, always consider the minimum deposit and also the top up amount. And just know that before you invest in a special fund, you need to have an emergency account or maybe a money market fund where you can put your money for emergency, and also have a healthcare insurance. So always consider having some money put aside before you invest in special fund, because for you to see good returns, you need to put your money in special fund for a period of 1 to 3 years. And also consider consulting and do more research. Utilize this video to gain some insights about special fund and also understand the risk involved in it, because investment is capital intensive and you might lose your money or part of your money. So always take caution. And also remember that these special funds usually charge performance fee. Like for example, Kuza Momentum, they charge 20% on return above benchmark. So benchmark for Kuza is 12% per annum. So if this fund had a gross return of 20% per annum, then 20% will be charged on the extra 8, that is 20 minus 12. They'll charge 20% on that 8% and also the management fee. And that is some of the information you need to take note on when it comes to investing in special fund. So hope you have learned something from this video. So consider liking it and also recommend it to your friends.